Hey, founders, Kirk Michie here. To answer your first question before I get to the more important second question, no, I'm not sponsored by Viore or Patagonia. I know I wear a lot of their stuff. Yeah, that they have no involvement in Candor Advisors. The more important second question. So we're going down the funnel and you're already well past curiosity, knowing what your number is, what kind of multiple your business is going to sell for, or what kind of range it's going to trade in. You've already figured out how to pick your advisors, how you're going to position yourself in the marketplace, or you've gotten that advice. You've got your key team in place. You are now down at the bottom of the funnel. You are fielding offers. You now know what a letter of intent is. You know how to decide whether you should take an earnout as part of the structure for the buyout. And you're asking the question, how do I compare these offers? And it's really relevant because, let's say your business is worth around $20 million. You might have 5 different offers that hover around $20 million, some with more cash, some with a seller note, some where the seller note is high in the capital stack, others where it's subordinated to maybe the private equity firm's management fees, others that have the earnout that I talked about before, which is a lower probability payout on some future event. Still others will have an employment agreement and a retention payment down the road. Be careful on the taxes on that one. And then there's the rolled or retained equity. How much of the money that they're going to give you for the business are you going to leave in the business, if you will, as part of the structure, so that you might get a second bite of the proverbial apple when they sell down the road. How do you compare all those things? Well, first, the raw dollar amount's easy. Arithmetically speaking, a $25 million offer is better than a $20 million offer. But maybe not. The second thing you need to do when you put all these things in a matrix and take across the top and put the dollar amount, then first, the highest probability dollars, the cash you get at closing. Next step down, a seller note that's not subordinated. So maybe there's no bank financing, or maybe the private equity firm's not taking management fees. And so you're next in line. If something gets screwed up, you can take the business back over. Well, that's pretty high probability money there. The next thing would be some sort of subordinated seller note. If the business has cash flow, even if the value has dropped, you're still probably going to get paid, or you're sitting at the table when things are negotiated. That's higher probability. Next thing down the list, the next lowest in probability, probably the retained equity. The reason we say that is that most of the professional investors or strategic investors do not want to lose money. And so they're going to work hard to make sure that even if they don't make a lot of money on your investment, they at least get to what we call a strategic exit, which means that there's usually some preservation of that. The last thing on the list, that's probably that earnout payment. And that's because you don't control it. They don't necessarily have a strong incentive to get it to you other than to maintain rapport. They're not specifically going to run the business so that you don't get it, but they've already taken control of the business. It may or may not happen in the future, right? So when you've put those things into a grid, now, okay, you're looking at, say, $20 million all cash offer versus a $22 million 60% cash, 40% earnout offer. Well, clearly the all cash offer is a whole lot better. And then you're looking at a $22 million, 60% cash, 20% non-subordinated seller note, 20% earnout. Well, that's better than the 60% cash, 40% earnout offer, right? So as you're looking at these things in the grid, kind of look at the certainty of payments and the probability of payments as being the higher percentage of the total headline number, right? Because the total headline number is just part of the story. The last thing is probability to close or risk, right? So, is your buyer a big corporate and they've got the money on the balance sheet, or they can easily draw it from a bank line? That's a lot of certainty to close. Second most certain, big, well-established private equity firm with a fund they can tap into. You can point to, they have the money, they can close your transaction, make any of these payments now or in the future. The next least likelihood is probably an independent sponsor. They've done deals before. They certainly have some funding sources. They're going to have to pass the hat to get the deal done, but they've done enough deals where if you query them on their track record, they can probably give you enough certainty about closing, but they're certainly not as certain as a big private equity fund or a strategic. family office, if they have the money on the balance sheet, you can ask for proof of funds. In many cases, they're really, really wealthy, and so there's plenty of money. And maybe that's even better than an independent sponsor. The least likely is a high net worth individual or a search fund. They don't have any money. Or if they do, they don't have enough money in most cases. I'm generalizing here. But the least certainty of close is an inexperienced buyer who is going to have to pass the hat to people that they've never done a deal with before to try and convince those people to buy your company. Be very, 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 maybe I'll add 7 or 8 more varies to accepting an LOI from that buyer. Because on a matrix, there's almost no way to dimension the risk of certainty to close, no matter how high their offer is. They could beat all the other offers by 25%, and it might still not be enough because of the lack of certainty to close. Anyway, so it may not be easy, but there's a systematic and almost scientific way to compare those things. If you've got a great transaction advisor, they'll put it together in a matrix and walk you through each piece of it. And they might even add some subjective stuff around kind of culture fit and buyer's reputation. So stay tuned, we've got more coming up.